Good evening. The San Dimas City Council meeting for Tuesday, January 24th will come to order. Please rise and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I apologize for the tardiness of the getting started tonight. We had a town hall concerning Southern California Edison. I want to thank you to the residents that chose to come to that opening opportunity to speak with Southern Cal Edison concerning the outages here we have in San Dimas. I do want to report that the room was completely full. There were 3 people there. So he had plenty of room to talk. What we'll do is we've asked the representatives from Edison to come back at a later date and time where we will have an opportunity to get some reports, get a report concerning other portions of what the council has asked them to follow up with an engineering stuff. So that next meeting will be at a date uncertain at this time, but it'll be held in this room, okay, where we have an opportunity to be able to broadcast it on the city's television program, K-West. So at that point in time, tonight we have some recognitions. I will ask for staff member Dominique, if you'd like to come up and make those announcements, then we'll proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. My name is Dominique Borba, Recreation Supervisor, and tonight we are here to recognize 3 amazing groups. First, we like to start off with Majestic Realty. They are located in the City of Industry and have been sponsors since 2019. And this year they were our title sponsor for the Holiday Extravaganza event. The city would like to ask Christina Janot to come forward as we'd like to present you with this sponsorship and continue partnership with the City of San Dimas. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Our second group that we like to recognize is Extran Elementary School. They are our 2022 Running Scared Elementary School Challenge. In efforts to continue to improve our collaboration with the San Dimas Elementary Schools, our recreation team created the Running Scared Elementary School Challenge for our 1 mile component of the event. Extran has been the champion since 2018. At this time, I'd like to ask teachers, Catherine and Kelsey, to come up and receive your trophy.
San Dimas Running Scared Elementary School champions.
Ladies.
Thank you. Would you like to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
Just thank you to the city for putting this on and to all the Extran families who joined us. Yeah.
Thank you. Our next group that we like to congratulate tonight is the San Dimas High School Boys Water Polo Team. We would like to congratulate them on their CIF Southern Section Division 5 championship. The city is proud of and honored to recognize this accomplishment of a successful season. They finished with an overall record of 27-8, a league record of 8-1, and capping it all off with the CIF championship. At this time, I'd like to introduce Coach Danny, who will introduce his team as the mayor will provide them their certificate.
All right, perfect, thank you. Coming up first, our goalie, Daniel Gonzalez. Cade Sonis. Andon Hansen. Travis Pang. Diego Zazueta. Ian Romero. Anthony Duenas. Kyle Howard. Nick Tatavosian. And my assistant coach, PV Pignotti.
At this time, we'd like to invite parents to come take photos, group photos.
One, two, three.
Thank you. That concludes our presentations.
All right. Good evening. Tonight we have an annual report of activity of the Planning Commission and the DPRB, the Development Planning and Review Board. Chair Dave Bratt will make this presentation. This is something that we've asked, the council has asked for our commissions to, on an annual or semi-annual basis, to come up and just give a brief overview of what the Planning Commission or whatever commission, the Parks and Rec. And Dave, he pulled the odd number. He ends up being the first one to do it. So I think what it is that we're hoping that we take this opportunity, that each one of our commissions have an opportunity to tell the community what they do and how they accomplish the goals that they're asked to do. Dave, please.
So you threw me in under the bus. Okay. My name is Dave Bratt. I am the chairperson for the Planning Commission and the DPRB. The Planning Commission, see if I can get this to work. Oh, there we go. The Planning Commission is made up of 5 members. We're appointed by the City Council, and we're appointed or reappointed every 2 years. The current commission includes an accountant, an architect, a civil engineer, a businessman, and I'm not going to call her a community activist, but an involved citizen. They're made up of Thomas Molina, Margie Green, Ted Ross, John Davis, who is my vice chair, and myself. It is the only board or commission required by the city charter, and we meet on the first and third Thursdays of every month. The Planning Commission is charged with reviewing conditional use permits, general plan amendments, zone changes, requests to amend municipal codes, actual municipal code amendments, and subdivisions, parcel and tract maps, clarifications of use, and variances. And one that's not on there is we were heavily involved in the housing element. For me, this is my third housing element I've gone through, and so we spend a lot of time on that. So, and then in 2022, you can see it doesn't look like we did a lot, but we managed to meet. We did a conditional use permit for a performing arts studio in downtown at the Mercantile and a manual arts studio in behind Starbucks, whatever we're going to call that. And then request to change municipal code text for Posada. It was a question of whether we had originally limited the height of the buildings, and they'd asked us to reconsider that. We did. And then open space requirements for multifamily zones. Then the actual municipal code text amendments, again for Bersada and for the open multifamily zones. And then general plan updates. This is the housing element. The housing element, I think, needs to be, it was a combination of the work of the staff, our consultants, and a city committee that helped come up with what I think is probably, of the three I've worked on, probably the most realistic and achievable housing element that we could come to. So then we worked with subdivisions. We're in the process of working with grading in Special Area 11, and the provided guidance to the staff and city on how we could implement Senate Bill 9. That's our housing element. That's good till 29. I figure it's going to be someone else's problem by then, not mine. The Development Plan Review Board, commonly known as the DPRB, it has 6 members, 3 citizens and 3 from the city staff. We have John Sorcinelli, who is an architect and committee or citizen at large. Then we have Scott Dilley, who's appointed by the chamber, Sanders Towing, myself, who represents the Planning Commission, and we're also joined by Brad McKinney, the Assistant City Manager, Henry No, the Director of Community Development, and Sherry Garwick, the Director of Public Works. And we all work together really well. The Development Plan Review Board is a little different. It reviews development projects to ensure that the high quality and compatible development stays in San Dimas. Our reviews include new single-family residence, new commercial and industrial development, non-residential additions and alterations, tree removals for 4 or more, and we worked on the new and updated sign programs. We meet on alternate Thursdays, the 2nd and 4th Thursdays, but we meet in the morning. But not that that matters, but anyway. Some of the things we worked on this year, single-family residences. There were 7 applications for that. A duplex application, commercial facade remodel, a residential RV garage, tree removals, the sign program update. One of the sub-purposes of the DPRB is we are also the license and permit hearing board. And among other things, we approve live music. And this year we approved live music at Railside Cafe. I think that'll be a big improvement. And in the past, we've approved live music for the restaurant at the other end of that development. So anyway. Yes, sir.
Is that basically, did you mind we have to then go through? With respect to the live music application, is that just to be able to put on live music, or does it also encompass like a schedule and everything else, out of curiosity?
It's all encompassing.
Okay.
It's a matter of when they can have it. We talk about decibel levels, sizes of the groups that are going to perform, that kind of stuff. So it's trying to make it compatible to benefit the business and not harm the nearby citizens. For example, Railside Cafe backs up, or condos back up to that, so you wouldn't want music blaring at 11 o'clock at night. So that's kind of what we try and do. I've learned over the years that both the Planning Commission and DPRB is a balancing act between what developers and property owners want to do and what's best for their neighbors. So that's what the live music is. So,
Thank you.
Yeah. So just some of the things that we've worked on is, this is the project that's on the corner of Gladstone and Amelia. Used to be where the little store was. It came before the DPRB. The individual wanted to put in 6 houses. So you talk about tree removal, tree replacement, layout of the lots, the design of the homes. All of these things come before the DPRB. And some of them stop at the DPRB, and some of them are forwarded on to the Planning Commission. The other thing that we were proud of this year is that 1305 West Arrow Highway. The picture at the top is what the building looks like currently, and down below you can see they were trying to remodel it. So again, we between the people on the DPRB, we try and come up with something that is compatible with the city. That's it. Any other questions?
Any questions for Dave? I just want to say, Dave, I haven't sat through several of your recent Planning Commission meetings. I think you guys are doing a great job, and I appreciate the time. I know it's voluntary, and we've had quite a few issues, especially with the housing element. It involved lots and lots of time, and it involves lots of reading, as most people know. That I spent 13 years on the Planning Commission before I got here, and I didn't realize that that there was so much reading and how difficult and how much time was involved. So I want to thank you and your other 4 members and the time that you take, and also you and both Margie represent the Planning Commission on our DPRB, which involves additional time on a Thursday morning. But thank you guys very much. I think you do us proud. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to speak for Margie, but for myself, I enjoy the work, and I think it's good work, and hopefully it's up to the quality that you gentlemen expect. So
Thank you very much. I'm sure everybody agrees. Thank you.
all right.
Okay, at this time, we're going to go into oral communications. Members of the audience are invited to address the City Council on any item on this agenda or not on this agenda. Public comment will not be taken during each individual item, except for public hearing items. Comments on public hearing items will be heard when that item is scheduled for discussion. Under the provisions of the Brown Act, the legislative body is prohibited from engaging in discussions on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. However, your concerns may be referred to the staff or set for discussion at a later date. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. At this time, I will address the fact that we did receive 3 separate comments one from Mr. Gary Enderly, one from Pauline Burrooster, thank you, and then one from Reiner Nielsen. These documents are kind of lengthy, so we won't be reading each one of them, but each council person has received a copy, and they will go along with the agenda package and in for the public record. So we will move on it, and all three of these items are dealing with black walnut trees in the Villa Verde Ridge area, or other might also refer to in other parts of the community that have, and that'll all be addressed at a later time in this proceeding. Okay? Madam Clerk, do we have any cards?
First speaker is Margie Green with the Historical Society.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Margie Green. I'm president of our Historical Society here in San Dimas, also a planning commissioner. I'm very proud of that, and thank you very much for all that the city does to help out with the Planning Commission. Thank you, Dave, for all your kind words. But tonight, I want to tell you about the Historical Society. We're getting back into doing school walkthroughs. Extran will be coming over on Thursday, February 2nd. They're going to be coming through the Walker House to visit, so we can tell them a little bit about the history of the Walker House, the history of San Dimas, so we're excited about that. Also, we've changed our walking tour days that are open for the public from the first Saturday of the month to the second Saturday of the month. Second Saturday of the month, everybody is invited to come to the Historical Society in the Walker House. That's 121 North San Dimas Avenue. Please come on by between 10 and 1. We will have a walking tour that starts at 10 in the morning, but the gift shop and the museum are open for everybody to come and enjoy between 10 and 1. So we hope you do that. We'd like to have more hours and have it open more often, but we're making the best use we can on the second Saturday. Remember, that's the second Saturday of every month now, and we'll have lots for you to come see and do, and we're looking forward to our first school tour coming through next week. It's going to be great, and it happens to be Extran, and hopefully they won't run through it, not scared running. I'm hoping they'll just walk through and learn a lot from us. We're there to help the community, so anytime you have any questions, you can call, leave your number. We're not always in the office because we're an all-volunteer organization. So we'll call you back. So just call and leave a message. Let us know if you're coming for the walking tour, or if you want just a special tour to come through, we'd be glad to do that too. Call, leave a message on that one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sylvia Melendez with the San Dimas Chamber of Commerce.
Hello, good afternoon. Today I want to speak briefly about an upcoming event of ours. We have our 5th annual 2023 Career Expo. It'll be taking place on Tuesday, February the 28th from 3 to 6 at Life Pacific University. We'll have full-time and part-time positions, mock interviews, resume review, and breakout sessions. We'll also it's open to the community as well as students, and we now have applications open for businesses if they are interested in participating. I also wanted to let the community know that we have our annual calendar for the year available to everyone. There you'll be able to find all our coffee hours, after hours mixers, and monthly luncheons. We have 3 a month for you to participate. We also have our workforce development efforts on there, marketing opportunities, educational programs, our networking programs, and our volunteer opportunities. We also have a various amounts of committees such as legislative, events, and ambassadors. And we also have all our signature events located there as well, just to name a few. Lastly, I want to give a big shout out to our recent chamber members. We have Daryl Lynn from Realty One Group Masters, Sud's Kitchen from downtown San Dimas, and we'll be doing hopefully a ribbon cutting soon. Selvage Hair Salon on Arrow Highway in San Dimas. We also have Balloon Art by Helena. And we also have the Laura Alvarado from the Curtis Company in downtown downtown San Dimas. And lastly, we have St. Jude's Elder Care that just joined today. So we look forward to connecting with everyone this year. And if you have any questions or are looking for additional information, you go ahead and contact the San Dimas Chamber at 909-592-3818 or by email at info@sandimaschamber.com. And you can find all this information if you visit sandimaschamber.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
John began speaking on black walnut trees.
Good evening, staff and city council. I live in Villa Verde, where there is numerous black walnut trees, and they are highly unmaintained in our area. And I think that's the reason why there's so many complaints about them, because they're really more of a tree than a bush to start with. And two, they're not very attractive unless they're highly maintained. In our particular part of, in our community, in our HOA, they just haven't been maintained. So they need to be. And part of that, and part of the fuel modification process, is cleaning up all the dead stuff that falls off on these trees, bushes, whatever you want to call them. If you see the pictures of them, they don't grow up like a tree. They grow out, they lay on the ground, they're all over the place. And if you follow any fire department standards for fuel modification, you have to clear this stuff from the ground to the first 6 feet if it's dried, dead, or it can compressed. We've started a small process of that. Some, particular people of our community that used to run it don't like that. And that's what I think a lot of this is about. None of us really have a problem with them, as long as they're maintained properly. And we just got to spend the money to do it. And so we just started doing that. But once it's maintained, I don't think there's any reason to change the current tree ordinance that you have in place. It seemed to work for the last 20 years. I mean, it's kind of covers everything that you need one way or another. And I just don't think there's a giant problem with them. I don't think they need to be highly protected or this or that, because it'll create other issues. They just need money to spend on them. And if you want to put a highly restrictive ordinance on these things, then I think the city should kick in to maintain them. And I don't think you want to do that. So that's just my feelings on the black walnut trees, and I just hope you'll give that some consideration. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reiner Nielsen speaking on black walnut trees.
Reiner Nielsen, I'm an architect, and I happen to be president of the Villa Verde Ridge HOA. I had a smashing visual presentation for everybody, but I was informed that, we couldn't give it. So I really hope, I understand that you have packets of the 43 pictures that we took of what the black walnuts are in our area. And, I don't know, have a little visual aid if, anybody wants to pass it around and see what we have. But to echo what John said, these are, you can see in the pictures, a picture's worth 1,000 words. These are not standing upright trees. And the condition that you see in the pictures I provided is what the current board inherited from prior administration that had been in place for 25, 30 years or so. And so our approach to try to deal with the dead wood, address these trees. A lot of them are in bad health. They have disease. They're easily broken, and they, a lot of them just do not flower or leaf annually. I talked to a neighbor on Via Esperanza today who looks out at a hillside that's just covered with these, and some of those pictures are in the packet. He told me the trees in front of his house haven't had leaves on them in 12 years. They are a fire hazard. We're supposed to be trimming them up off the ground, but we'd like to be able to deal with the resource that we have, embellish our community, and we want to work hand in hand with the city. We don't want you guys to be inundated with comments from, I don't know, I'll call them malcontents, that we're actually addressing a lot of these conditions that you see in the pictures. An example, I know some of you are probably out on Via Verde with a couple of the people who have an issue with that. And I can certainly walk you around if anybody has the time and the stamina to go look at some of these areas that are in the pictures. But we really want to deal with this. We have so many homeowners who look out at this stuff from their backyards, and it just doesn't make living in San Dimas a pleasant thing. You have a nice outdoor patio, you go out and you look at these horrible items.
Thank you, sir.
David Baker, also speaking on black walnut trees.
I'm going to have to adjust this up. Good evening. My name is Dave Baker. I am a resident of San Dimas, and again, I'm talking on the black walnut trees too. I'll make it short. I won't take up the 3 minutes. I'm a former engineer, so everything's short and sweet for me. I don't think the city should be involved in a position to referee for the HOAs. Again, Reiner put it before, we had people that didn't want to do anything to the trees before, and we need to do some maintenance on the black walnut trees. Again, we don't want to take them out, but we need to do some maintenance in order to make sure that our community is fire safe in one area, and again, looks great. So we're not trying to take out every black walnut tree, and I don't think you need to be in that position to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Pete Lewis.
Welcome back, Pete.
Well, I grew up on a walnut grove, but I'm not here to talk about those. TRCP funding, this is the state funding for the rail, light rail, and commuter rail. Their funding is going to be announced next week, Tuesday, January 31st. And I expect and I hope that they get approval for the now $800 million extension to Montclair on the Gold Line. If they don't, I think this is our last best chance of getting funding, because next year in the budget there is no TRCP funding for the light rail. That's part of the Newsom cuts. It's of about $2 billion, but the $3.3 billion, 1.3 is for Southern California and 2.0 is for the entire state. And I expect them to get it. They're a big push. We'll find out. But it's probably pretty much our last big chance, I think. Could be wrong. I'm no expert on this stuff. One thing that I've talked about 5 years ago, I went to Claremont. I spoke to their council, and I recommended that they get rid of that station move. They're moving the Claremont station. Back 5 years ago, it was $40 million to move the Metrolink station as they build the light rail station. They want to maintain both. When the light rail comes in, the Metrolink station is not going to have any use. It's already a low-use station. Metro trains come every 6, 8, 10 minutes. The Metrolink comes every half hour or hour. It's more expensive. It doesn't take that much difference in time to get to Union Station. It gives you many more places to go. I think it's a total waste of taxpayer money. It delays the project about 6 months to build that station. But anyway, they got a response back from the city manager like 5 years ago, and he says that he thought they were going to get funding, and there were some activist people in the community that wanted that station, and they just didn't want to listen to me really. But anyway, I thought I'd bring that up, let you guys all know. I also wanted to mention when I'm here, Mayor Bass was elected in the mayor of LA. One of her platforms of her election was free transit in LA. The last thing that Mayor Garcetti did before he left was to create a study to study free transit. That's due in June. I'm hoping that, I don't mind people getting free transit for people that are unemployed, students, handicapped. There's a lot of reasons to have free transit. I want them to maintain the tap cards. Once you get rid of tap cards and people just could ride forever, you get the homelessness problem, you get crime problems. It gets worse because anybody could be on a train. So I'm not really, I think it's going to probably go through. It's one of her platforms. I'm hoping they maintain a tap card where you have to apply for it and not just, just not sleep on the train all day. And also the regional connector, just for the last thing. The last I saw now, it's spring of 2023. That's going to make the A line go from Long Beach eventually into Pomona and Claremont. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up too. It's supposedly spring. I don't know what's taking so long. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Pete.
Catherine began on black walnut trees.
I'll try and make it short. As you all know, I've been here usually giving you information on safety in the city and the things that we're doing in our community to work on safety. This can go to another side of safety a little bit, and these black walnut trees, we've been doing some research with the fire department, our local area that passes out these fire clearance brush that we get in areas. If you live in a canyon or you live in our area, I'm not sure if some of the downtown folks get these, but we do on brush clearance. I worked with the captain there on some information who led me to the Los Angeles County Agricultural Commission. Talked to them this week, found out a lot of different things on fire code that they would like everything from 6 feet up cleared, especially in our area. We are in severe fire, what is it called? Severe fire zone that some homes on my street can't even get fire insurance. These trees and bushes and dead shrubs that I've sent you an email, all of you. It was kind of late, I apologize. Tried to get to that Edison meeting, couldn't do it. But you got probably about an 8-page email from me. You probably got about 8 pictures as well of the trees that you could thumb through real quick. They look like Nightmare on Elm Street. Black bush branches high that the crows would sit on that would stare at your window. Have not flowered, we've been there 15 years. And when I also talked to some senior biologists in the LA County, they're willing to come out and look at these plants, these trees, these shrubs, these dead branches. I can't say that word, my girlfriend knows, to look and see if they're diseased, if they have the pests. Most up in Northern California died due to drought, due to fire, due to this beetle. Other states won't take this firewood from our area into their states because they don't want the beetle. The wood cannot be transferred. These trees also have toxins within the leaves, within the soil and the branches that kill everything around it. If you notice these dead trees, you're going to notice not much around them. That's why they protect themselves from invaders. So there's a lot to know about these trees. They're not the most beautiful, but beautiful is in the eye of the beholder. It really, really is. HOAs in our area, we have beautiful ones that are maintain their land, their trees that add value to our Villa Verde. Ours, we're behind. We've been behind for 38 years. We are all taking a proactive approach, from neighbors to residents to working with other HOAs for safety, cameras. We're now talking about these trees. Each HOA president, each resident, as we walk and talk, we're trying to get meetings with certain councilmen in our area, the mayor, so that we all can work together in Villa Verde in a lot of areas and the city together on these community issues. Thank you. My comments, I talked to Deborah, did not make it into your today's packet, but you all were emailed as well as the city clerk. And if you could please add that, Deborah, I'd appreciate it to the record. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ruth Leuven on tree trimming.
Hi, Ruth Leuven. Actually, I'm going to approach 2 things. With regards to the black walnut tree, I think we're asking the wrong question. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this tree is classified as near threatened, and as so, therefore, it would probably be legal to cut down the tree to begin with. This might be something that the City Council might want to investigate prior to engaging in any type of tree cutting. Number 2, the black oak, just like any other oak, should only be trimmed because it is deciduous during the time period of the winter. If you cut a tree like that during the summer, you actually do kill the tree. Most other tree trimmings occur during the summer, but not oak trees. They must be done only in the winter. In other words, they're not on your normal tree trimming cycle. On a second note, I did actually go by 1477 Windsor Avenue, the tree that was in question in the packet from last week. There is a tree there with leaves, quite blossoming leaves, wonderful leaves that's in the driveway, which leads me to believe that the trimming that was done at this particular residence obviously did lead to some sort of, well, blooming of leaves to begin with, because that tree is not dead, unless of course the entire tree was removed and replaced with a entirely different tree, which I assume could be the possibility, but I don't believe that that's the case. Once again, that might be something that the City Council may want to investigate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor, those are all the speaker cards.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the council at this time?
How you doing? I'm Joe McCann, also a Villa Verde resident. Here to speak about black walnuts. I didn't think there was this much conversation about black walnuts in my life, but I moved to the area. Behind my house, there is dead black walnuts all over the place. Absolutely is a fire hazard. Again, I don't think anyone's looking to get rid of them. I think they need to be maintained. They haven't been maintained, and I think it's a danger to our community. We all live on hillsides up there, and it could take out an entire neighborhood. I work in fire and water restoration. I've been all over the United States dealing with fire and disaster cleanup. I've seen neighborhoods get wiped out for not maintaining their properties or the community land, so I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Vilma Acevedo, and I am with the Villa Verde States HOA. I'm not representing the HOA. I'm simply talking about the trees in my community. I've been on the board of directors for 17 years. I think I have a beautiful community with plenty of trees. We have 290 trees. And we trim those trees every 2 years. They're on rotation. We spend a lot of money on tree trimming. So I'm a little concerned with the emphasis on planting more trees. I love the trees. I love the canopy. But we have to be careful with the expenditures because you have to spend money on your trees. You cannot let a tree grow or a tree die like the walnuts and don't take care of them. You have to maintain them. And that's my approach in my community. We have a substantial budget just for trees. As to the walnuts and the issue, it seems to me that this is an HOA issue. I think it's past leadership versus present leadership. And I don't think the council, my opinion, should be involved with that. We should leave it to the board members, the residents, to handle the issue of the trees. I would not like to see that happen in my community. As a matter of fact, we had an issue with a resident that trimmed the protected California oaks. And somebody from planning told me that because of the HOA, you wouldn't get involved. So we had to hire legal counsel to address the issue of the 5 trees that were damaged. And so we've handled that privately as an HOA. So it's unfortunate that there's this rivalry amongst the ex-board members and current board members, and it's affecting all of us. We have 44, I think, HOAs in San Dimas. And I don't think you'll be willing to start hearing comments or disputes from all of them when tree trimming happens or doesn't happen. So that's my input. So I hope that you are willing to accept my comments and maybe give you some thought. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak to the council at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion unless a member of the City Council requests a separate discussion.
I'll move approval.
Second. Mayor, just for the record, I do need to, due to a financial conflict of interest, recuse myself from acting as the city attorney on item number 8.
On item number 8. All right. Don't ask the city attorney about item number 8.
You can ask me, I'm just not acting as the city attorney on that item.
Super.
Can I be the city attorney for item number 8?
I just want to be the city attorney for like 15 minutes.
Any questions concerning the consent calendar? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, consent calendar passes. Even item number 8 for 5-0.
I'm back to being the city attorney.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move into public hearings. Approval of a proposed 2023-2024 Community Development Block Grant CDBG program and funding request. Lily?
Yes. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, and members of the public. My name is Lily Flores. I am the Housing Manager. This public hearing is to consider and approve a resolution approving the proposed fiscal year 23-24 CDBG programs and funding budget. Each year, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, provides annual grants to states, cities, and counties to develop viable urban communities by providing decent housing and a suitable living environment for low and moderate income persons. As a participating city with the Los Angeles County Development Authority, LOCDA, Urban County Community Development Block Grant Program, CDBG, the City of San Dimas receives annual allocations of CDBG funding. This funding is based on the number of participating cities in the county's program, a community development need, and a city's commitment to providing housing and community development. Activities carried out with CDBG funding must address at least one of the 3 national objectives. 1, benefiting low and moderate income persons. 2, aid in preventing neighborhood deterioration. And 3, to meet an urgent community development needs due to natural disasters or other emergencies. Activities may include, but are not limited to, public facilities and improvements, acquisition and relocation, public services, and housing improvement rehabilitation programs. Currently, for fiscal year 22-23, CDBG funds are allocated to the following programs: our housing rehabilitation program, which is citywide, a program administration fee, which cannot exceed 20% of the program, and our youth scholarship program. The housing rehab program has an annual goal of assisting 10 households with various housing rehab projects, such as plumbing and electrical repairs, re-roofs, HVACs, exterior paint, and window replacements. This program is widely supported by the community. The Housing Division closed the waitlist after only 1 month of opening due to a demand and a total of 86 properties placed on the list. To date, we have 14 properties being serviced, potentially exhausting all the CDBG funds allocated for this fiscal year. But in addition, for fiscal year 22-23, the Housing Authority budgeted $200,000 in the home rehab funds for this program, and that will be utilized after the CDBG funds have been exhausted. The Youth Scholarship Program has a goal of assisting 50 youth for the program year. To date, 15 youth have been assisted with scholarships for the Kids Fun Club, basketball, swim lessons, swim team, soccer, Webby dance, and Shooting Stars. The housing staff is currently working with the Parks and Recs Department to improve this program so that the total funds are utilized each fiscal year. The City of San Dimas will be receiving an estimated allocation of $157,650 for the fiscal year 23-24, along with the carryover of unallocated balance of $51,851, totaling $209,508 of CDBG funds. The Housing Division is proposing the following programs and budgets for fiscal year 23-24. For our housing rehab program, $159,607, which is 76% of the budget, and we're proposing to assist a minimum of 10 households. $39,901 for CDBG admin fees, which pays for our housing consultant, and $10,000 for the Youth Scholarship Program, which is 4% of the budget, proposing to assist 25 youth. The proposed projects continue to maintain the city's affordable housing supply and provide supportive services for targeted low-income groups, including persons with disabilities, the elderly, the youth, and other special need groups. The projects proposed are existing CDBG programs that have been successful and are supported by this community. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have. Thank you.
Any questions of Lily?
Yes.
You mentioned that the demand for the program was very high and applications, I don't remember the number that you used, but came through really fast. If that's the case, can you explain what the carryover balance was for? I would assume that that would be gone if the demand was such.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Councilmember, the unallocated balances from previous years that wasn't used for the youth scholarship program.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So there's a minimum of $10,000 that has to be budgeted for each program. And so that's why we've been budgeting $10,000 every year for the youth scholarship program, but they haven't been utilizing that amount. Okay. So those are those carryover amounts.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? All right, this is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing. Thank you, Lily.
Sure.
Anyone wishing to speak to this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. We have a motion to approve.
Mayor, I'll move that we adopt the resolution, authorize the city manager or his designee to execute any and all documents related to this matter.
I'll second it.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. We'll move to other business. Request to consider implementing special protections of black walnut trees and to direct city staff to bring an additional information forward on black walnut trees. Requested on 1/10/2023 by Mayor Pro Tem Ebner. Seconded by Councilman Nakano. John?
Thanks, Mayor. First of all, there is no staff report on this. Is that correct? Correct, okay. So I'll just make some comments about what I'd like to see us do. During the oral communications and in the emails, we have been provided some information about black walnut trees. And it's a good thing to have knowledge about different things, and black walnuts are one of those things that I think are an important part of the city, and we should, the council as a whole and staff should, the more we know about it, the better. When I was in college, I went to Cal Poly, and I drove from my parents' house in West Covina up Grand to Cal Poly, and over to the side of the road on the west side, if you've taken that route, and especially back when I was going to college, I won't tell those exact years, but when I was going to college a long time ago, there were a lot of trees over there. And, you know, I always noticed that they were a little bit the mangled type, and they just kind of all jumbled together. And they had a certain look, certain attractiveness to a lot of people. And I later found out that those were black walnut trees. In fact, the city of Walnut is named for the black walnut trees and has a lot on their website about them. So this is not a new issue to me or a new thing that I'm interested in. Over the years, I've heard various, read articles, heard things on the radio about black walnuts and how they're in certain parts of the state, not all, and there's really two types. One's Northern California, one's Southern California. And those in Southern California especially have been disappearing over all those years since I went to college, mainly due to development and that kind of thing, loss of habitat. So that's, I would say that the controversy that is going on up in the Villa Verde Ridge Homeowners Association was the catalyst to bring this forward, but it's not the reason that we should have more information. The last thing I want to do is get in the middle of a dispute or anything between residents of the homeowners association, however you want to describe that, whatever the parties are, whoever they are. So what I'd like to do, council, is kind of tell you the kinds of information that I think we could use, and then refer this, and I'd like to do that, but I'd like, at the end, I'd like to refer this to the Parks and Rec Commission to get input from them. And I would like to ask that staff do that on a timetable of their choosing. So in other words, this isn't an emergency thing we're going to be, and believe me, there's some people up there that would want an emergency ordinance, moratorium, and the whole bit. That's not at all what I'm talking about. And I think the whole situation is being handled right now under the current ordinance, and I'm not suggesting that we change that right now at all, actually, for who knows how long. So I would like this to be at the discretion of our staff as to when to bring this to the Parks and Rec Commission first and see what they have to say about it, and maybe they don't have anything. So we would be hearing it long after the current tree trimming cycle is over. As one of the speakers said, there's probably a good time to trim these trees. And if that time is right now, we would be talking about this way past that time. And in that way, it gives us a little bit of breathing room, I guess you might say. So the kinds of information, and again, there were some things brought up by speakers and in emails, but that I just jotted down here that would be helpful to us, I think, would be, and to the public at large, would be, first of all, a description of what a black walnut is, its appearance, growth habit, is it deciduous or evergreen? We know that it's deciduous from what people have been saying. Its general life expectancy, its fire resistance and tolerance to fire, as well as what kinds of dangers there are for dead and diseased trees. So in other words, the entire gamut from how you should treat living trees and what a healthy black walnut looks like. Because believe me, a healthy black walnut isn't your regular yard tree. It is low growing with a whole bunch of branches that go out on the ground, and then they might go up a little bit. And that's how they grow, and they look a certain way in winter, and they look a certain way in the summertime with the foliage. Things that are dead, you know, what should be done with those, what kind of maintenance should be done to living ones. And I think staff would be able to find a lot of guidance, a lot from our own arborist and our landscape manager and everything like that. It would be good to know, is the species threatened or endangered? Because I've read websites saying everything from one end to the other. Where do these trees occur in San Dimas? And again, this isn't limited to one area. It would be a general thing about black walnuts. What protection do they have at the state, county, and local level? How is that enforced, or is it enforced, or is it just guidelines, or is it an actual thing that says you must or must not do this? And then lastly, what we often do is look to other cities, and maybe this would even come after or before, I don't know, it's staff is up to staff, but when it comes to the council at some point in the future, it might be good to know what approach other cities take. And frankly, I don't know. I don't know of any cities that have further protections of black walnuts or not. So in short then, I'd like to refer it to the Parks and Rec Commission with a timeline of staff's discretion to bring that information for their discussion and input.
Any discussion?
I can, so I have a couple of thoughts here. The first is I really do not know much about black walnuts and about tree maintenance or anything else. So it's really, really hard for me to come up and make a decision about this when I just do not have that information. And to John's point, there are a lot of questions I have. I have no idea what position I would take on this. But to your point, what are the maintenance requirements? Are the black walnuts that were cited, are they truly dead? Are they dying? Are they unhealthy? Are they diseased? Are they a danger to people's homes? So that would be the only concern I have, is if we extend the timeline forever? Would we be putting people's homes at risk because it's a fire hazard?
Can I answer that? So since this would, so no change is expected for I don't know how long. So right now, there's no, this particular thing, this getting information, has no effect whatsoever in what is done. They would be operating under the current tree ordinance, and that's all. Yeah, this would not, I'm not asking for any kind of moratorium. This is just, as you said, for information so we know.
Do HOAs usually maintain them, or is it the city's responsibility? Is that done in other cities? What kind of protections are out there? If we allowed pruning, would we be in violation of county, state, federal law? I have no idea. So my preference would be to get this information, or better yet, an expert who can answer these questions, because I'm sure that if we ask all these questions, we get all this information back, there might be another one that comes up that could be the question that makes us say, oh gosh, we shouldn't have done that, or we should have done this, or this, that, and the other fire, whatever. So I would agree with that position, or have someone come to answer our questions in a way that can help us make an informed decision, because I also suspect that this isn't just really about black walnuts, it's about how we want to treat trees in general that might be of this particular type or way, right? And that all these questions could help inform how we think about tree maintenance overall, now that it's come up twice in a row in city council. So I would support that. Whether or not it goes to Parks and Rec, I'm comfortable with making that recommendation. I just need someone to talk to who knows this stuff, who can answer questions. And if we have that in a way that's fair, honest, unbiased, and based on data and the science and knowledge of regulations, I feel like I can make an appropriate vote. Right now, I would abstain because I just don't know what to do.
Chris?
We also have in the audience the city's arborist and the manager overseeing that division, if there are any questions specifically that are more of an expertise level than generalist.
Are we allowed to ask those questions now?
Okay, I see no reason why the city arborists like to come up.
Good evening, gentlemen. James Robertson, City of San Dimas, Municipal Arborist. Health of trees, yeah, but I would like to even get more information myself when it comes to the protected status of these trees and how natural areas are supposed to be maintained, and if these are natural areas. So with that, any questions you have, if I have an answer, I'll be glad to give it to you.
Well, my concern is that I don't know what a healthy black walnut tree looks like. I went up there and I looked, and I certainly saw things that looked like they were a tree. I'm a very, very well educated person in the way of Christmas trees. And I didn't see any Christmas trees up there. And then I remembered that we have phony Christmas trees at our house, so I didn't see any Christmas trees. But I do see a lot of trees that are black on one side and can't tell on the other. But what I'm concerned about is, first off, I 100% support sending it off to the Parks Commission for some information, but I also want that to be understood that I'm not expecting a turnaround of immediate time because I realize Parks has a lot going on, but sounds like to me that it's going to take some time to gather the information to find out what the state's really saying and believe that. But I'm concerned about some of the comments that were made about the trees look like they're dead and there's just, piled up next to people's fences, and that is a concern. And as we all know, summer will be coming and it will be dried off. So I'm going to depend on the staff as well as the fire department to be concerned about, what's got to be done to clean it. I'd never really thought about it because this is, like John said, this is really just came forward in the last few months with the change in attitude towards the association and some of their members. And that's not for this council to get involved in any of that, okay? So the reality is, I need to know that if we're sitting back here on our hands, are we putting people in jeopardy? And that's going to have to come from the staff telling us that, and I'm quite sure they'll meet with the fire department and figure that out. But I certainly don't want to be sitting around looking at somebody's home go up in blaze because we didn't do something about knowing that there was a problem. Okay, so that's just my belief, but I support it going to the Parks Commission, and I don't know about anybody else, but
So is your recommendation that we
my recommendation would be, but John, that would be John's recommendation. You second it, I would third it. I would do whatever we need to do. I believe that's where it needs to go.
I think I think my concern about this is twofold. This is the second time the city council, maybe not this city council, but the city council, has interjected itself into a matter that is in the HOA's purview. And in fact, there was another matter not too long ago where it was found that the city took a position historically that it would not enforce certain items. That the HOA did, in fact, as it was pointed out, look to the city to enforce covenants and other items. And the city said, no, it's not our duty or responsibility. I think that, and I appreciate, Eric, the thought process you're going through. I don't know that it's a broader discussion right now, at least the scope of it, as I understand, is black walnut trees. I think there's another discussion that we had the last council meeting that has to deal on some different topics related to trees and this, not this particular type of tree, though. To me, and I sit as a president of an HOA, I kind of find it borderline offensive, and I wonder if the council, again, is intruding on something that is seemingly a matter for the landscape and the arborist of the HOA. And in any normal function, have we had complaints filed with code regarding these black walnut trees? I mean, is the city actively investigating something, or are we putting a target on an HOA, a specific HOA?
There's currently active complaints regarding these trees in this HOA.
And what have we found?
It is still currently under investigation.
Okay, so I mean, realistically, it sounds like based off of what some residents have said and even board members have said from that HOA, that there is a process. We're investigating claims. There's also fire code. And to some of the concerns expressed by council, I echo that, I appreciate the discussion to, become more familiar with black walnut trees. But at the end of the day, if there's dead or decrepit or otherwise, I've literally seen, because members of the community, when I looked into this, and as you stated earlier, this is really coming from some members of the HOA or former board members of a specific HOA that have brought an issue forward and are battling this out in the arena of the city council. And I don't know that this is the right venue. I will support asking more information. We've always said we're good with getting more information. I'm not opposed to that. But I want to be very clear. I will not support anything where the city interjects itself further into a matter that is seemingly very on face value within the jurisdiction of an HOA, number one. And two, this raises a whole nother concern. Does every single HOA then going to be expected to come and battle it out here if they have some landscape or arborist issue? There are other trees that are regulated, and all of the commercial arborists know which ones they are. And they know they can face steep penalties from the city and from the state in some cases, because there are protections for those. I'm all down to get more information, but at the end of the day, I think this is potentially a big waste of time.
Well, I agree with you, Ryan, but it's information that I personally don't have. about these trees, and I'm concerned about the danger. Okay, they've used those words. The HOA board has used those words. The other folks you know and I know have used those words. So I'm not sitting here saying that I will agree or I will do anything with it, but I need to know the information before I can say, I don't want to be involved in their, hey, I can tell you right here and now, 10 times a week, I have heard from board members, 10 times a week I've heard from residents, okay? And I believe they certainly should be able to come together and figure out what's safe or not safe.
Mayor, until today, in your tenure on the council, have you ever taken up black walnut trees in the existence of the time that the Villa Verde Ridge Association's been here?
Nope.
I just, again, that just is an indicator to me that this is just one issue from one particular HOA, a vocal one. And you know what? What's crazy to me is the fact that this council, if we do, and it sounds like we're going to refer this to Parks and Recreation, which I will support, but just today, or just over the weekend, the new leadership of that HOA has committed over $12,000 to installing flock cameras. They're proactively doing their landscaping. It sounds to me like you have an HOA board that is doing everything it's supposed to be doing to maintain the health and integrity and the pleasant quality of life that the people enjoy there. So to me, forgive me, but I would find it offensive if I was on their board and their community happy that, hey, people are actually doing what we elected them to do.
I understand exactly what you're saying, Ryan, but as I understand it, we up here right now haven't said anything about the board not doing what their job is.
I think the action of continuing this matter will demonstrate the fact that we're questioning whether or not they're doing the right thing in abating their properties and whether or not we need to further protect them. Protect these black walnut trees that sound like they're not in good condition to begin with. I trust the judgment of that board, their arborist, and the HOA. I see no further reason to continue this, but I'll support getting more information.
I think I'll just add that while getting more information is not necessarily a bad thing, I think it is kind of a slippery slope to send it to a Parks and Rec Commission because this isn't having the idea that these trees are on private property and not public property, not a park, have nothing to do with recreation. For the most part, it is a slippery slope. Like I said, these aren't city trees; they're not on public property. My understanding, and from the research that I did prior to tonight's meeting, these particular trees in question in the Villa Verde Ridge HOA are not protected. There are certain locations where they are protected. These are not one of them. As we've robustly discussed in prior meetings, all trees need maintenance, and to me, maintenance is reasonable. So we're not discussing tearing trees out. We're not discussing, getting rid of all of the black walnut trees on a hillside. We're talking about maintaining trees the way that trees are meant to be maintained. So I don't know why these particular trees would be any different, but if obviously we're going to vote however we vote on whether we send this to Parks and Rec, but I would prefer if we're going to move this forward to any commission, I would be open to discussing it and getting more information as it relates to only city-owned and maintained trees.
You raise a good point, and for that reason I would not support sending it to Parks and Recreation. I agree with you that if these trees are in fact on private property and these trees are the catalyst of this whole discussion, I see no reason to refer it there.
Go ahead, Eric.
So several comments. The first, I'm learning a lot of information just from the conversation here that I didn't know. For instance, I didn't know, are they on public property or are they only on private property? This is the first time I'm hearing any characterization of that. I need to know what actually the health of the trees are. Are they actually dying, dead, in a danger? We haven't yet been able to get that information. I don't know if I would characterize my request for information getting involved in an HOA dispute. We just have an item on the agenda and we're trying to do the best we can to determine what it is we do here, whether it's within a jurisdiction or not. And so I have a lot of questions that whether I get it from an expert speaking here tonight or at the Parks and Recs Commission who can answer these questions and get us the decisions or the information we need to make an informed decision, that's all right now I'm looking for. I really just want to make sure that we're not characterizing this as a politicized dispute with the HOA, because I personally don't see myself as an agent in that, and someone who is trying to take sides in some sort of a dispute I know very little or nothing about. So with that, with your permission, I'd love to ask our arborists questions, or if you have a strong preference to sending this to the Parks and Recs Commission.
Go ahead.
That as well.
If I may,
Do we have an agenda
interject?
problem? It's on the agenda.
No, if I may interject, I mean, so currently what was being asked was to send us to the Parks and Recreation Commission discussion and information with certain areas being described. No outcome was being determined, no action was being determined, and then we are having conversations that relate to public versus private trees, and specifically the HOA, of which they're private trees. We have to delineate that public trees fall under the purview of the Parks and Recreation Commission, but private trees, when it comes to removal or applications for removals, goes to community development. And so depending on what outcome the council desires from the discussions at Park and Recreation may inform which avenues we need to go down. And as it pertains to how do we deal with a private tree or the issues related to an HOA black walnut tree, Henry, the Community Development Director, can speak to the process, because that process is codified in code under the purview of community development, and he's able to do that now if you so choose.
So I think that's my first question is, are these private trees or are these trees on public land?
These trees would be private trees of the
They're all
HOA.
private. Okay.
Do we have any black walnuts in that area on city property?
I will turn that to James.
Not on city property. I don't think we have any specimens in city easements.
And that is included in the entire city?
This is a city-imposed easement, right? It's a scenic easement, the common area of many homeowners associations are scenic. This one is called a scenic easement.
It would be under Title 18 and still falls under the purview of community development.
So, if the council doesn't want to know more about this in a formalized way, that's up to the council, the rest of my colleagues. All I'm asking for is that we know more about it. And the reason is, even though and that's why I want to push it off so it's not involved in this HOA dispute. The reason is, I could ask it for it next year, I could ask it for it any old time, but the thing is that this particular species of trees is one of the few, if not the only, Southern California native species that is either near threatened, or endangered, depending on what agency you are talking about. If it's CalScapes, which is a native California plant organization, they call it endangered. If it's Los Angeles County, if you look on their significant ecological area part of their website, they mention the black walnut as critically threatened, or whatever words they use. I'm not trying to get that information to us right now, because I don't know what everybody else says. So I would like to know more about it, this particular tree. And I'll leave it at that. It is a little frustrating that whenever we bring up anything to do with trees, there's such consternation about just simply learning about them and where they are, public right-of-ways, public easements that are. Everybody knows what an easement is. The private property owner does not have absolute control over easements, right? On my house on 4th Street, when we lived there, it had an easement for a sewer right in the back of the yard with a manhole cover and everything. the public agency could come in at any time, even though it's my property, maintain, repair, change, whatever they wanted to do to that particular easement. So when something is in the code for this particular specific plan talks about a scenic easement. That said, it's about black walnut trees in general. As a side note, I had a long conversation today with Lauren Marshall about water table replenishment, because that's an issue that is of concern and interest to me and should be to the entire council. I know it is to the entire council. And it's just one of those things. There are a lot of things that the city should be interested in, and I feel that an endangered, or what I understand from what I've read and heard, an endangered species in the city, at least the city council should, even if we don't do anything, even if we say have at it, we don't need them, we should at least know what they are and the extent to which they are, how prevalent they are, and whether they're protected and whether they should be protected, and what kind of maintenance is deemed appropriate. And again, it has nothing to do with the current tree ordinance, which is the only thing that's controlling the dispute that is going on in that HOA. This is not about that dispute. And that is why I'm not saying, oh, we need a moratorium, we need an immediate action. It's like, let's learn about this. And if you don't want to learn about it until September, I'm fine with that. But my recommendation and my ask is that we let staff determine the timetable, but we ask staff to bring it to the Parks and Rec Commission, the only commission that in any way, shape, or form can deal with trees. I don't think there's any other commission that could do that.
I thought it was determined that it depends on whether it's a private or public tree that would determine the commission.
This is why I'm asking for the clarity. Staff doesn't have an issue at all doing the research and bringing something forward. Right now, what's on the table, and what I'm hearing, the item is about, I want more information about these trees, the following types of information in that discussion, and there is no outcome at the bottom. So if the action, and that's what's missing. If it's just, I'd like a report on the information about these trees, and I'd like the Parks Commission to talk about it, it would be within their purview, because you've broadly have determined the scope of a commission. So if they just want to talk about staff doing informational report to Parks, that's one thing. It's the outcome that's missing from, so what's coming out of that? Do you want Parks just to have a conversation about these trees and that's it? And it stops there and there's no report back to council, no consideration of an action? That's one approach. If it's intended to inform how we're going to approach a private tree as it pertains to an HOA or anything else, which doesn't sound like that's what's being asked, there may be some other implication to another commission or another department. So that's the clarity that we just need to know. If it's just an informational report,
I'm all for if John wants a report back on black walnut trees, I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is an assumption that other council members don't research what you're bringing forward. And frankly, I find absolutely no need to get further into this. But if you want to bear it out, have it referred so we can have a discussion amongst the council, I don't have a problem with that. But I do think that sending it to Parks and Recreation, like we talked about previously, if these were city trees, I'd agree with that. Otherwise, let's do a special study session, like we always do with the council, and go through this. Because the reality of it is that the Parks and Recreation Commission really has absolutely no jurisdiction over this particular issue. And unless you can tell me that there are black walnut trees anywhere else in this city on public land, not easements, public land, that we know, and as we learned at the last council meeting, not every easement is owned by the city. And we figured that out last meeting. So I think the bottom line is, if there is no black walnut trees on any public land, then let's set up a study session at the staff's leisure to get all the information. And I would be interested in the fire code specifically related to this. And I'd be interested also in, like was previously discussed, how this stuff burns. how often, the lifespan, I mean, all the questions. We should get into it, and then let's talk about it. And perhaps we should plant some. I mean, on public land.
How long was before we were going to be around?
No, hey, I mean, I'm not opposed if that's where the discussion goes.
I understand, Ryan. I've said I'll support it going back to the Parks and Rec to do it. I still support that, but I also, think a study session where we just invite the public Parks and Rec Commission to join us in this conversation like we've done in the past with the Planning Commission or whatever. But what I want to make sure that everyone understands from my position is really simple. Right now, the leadership of the HOA that was elected and by their membership is the persons that are responsible for this type of activity. It's not the cities. If it was on a city tree or something, then that belongs back in our ballywag. But the reality is, they had an election. There seems to be a lot of controversy up there, but I'm only hearing from a few folks that are, representative of their the different mindset, and then I'm hearing from their board. And in my world, the board was elected by their membership, okay? And if there's a problem with all of that, but I would be more than, I don't know what a black walnut really looks like unless somebody points it to me. As I'm being told, it's the local pile of weeds or, sticks next to somebody's fence. That's all I'm hearing. But, I think I agree with John. We need to learn more. But I also agree with Ryan that says, are we sticking our nose where it shouldn't be? The reality is that hillside has a HOA, and they voted a certain set of people to be their representative voice. And maybe Ryan's right, we shouldn't be involved in all of this, but I would like to learn more. At least I could even learn what a black walnut looks like. So that's where it's at.
Let's send it to the Parks Department to take to the Parks and Rec Department and to report back in a study session.
I could support that with no problem at all.
So a couple questions before that. Is that the correct commission that would be the one to weigh in on this, considering that we're talking about private trees? So that's one. And then number two, if we send it to them and they can't make a recommendation, what would we expect from them? So
I don't know that we're
not a recommendation, just the report.
I don't think we're looking for a recommendation.
Correct.
I think we're looking for a conversation about telling us what trees are.
I think what Chris was getting at when he was talking about the Parks and Rec Commission being kind of responsible for talking about community trees is that, as Dave Bratt just got up and talked to us about, a private tree would be under the authority of the DPRB, if I remember correctly from
I was just about to
45 minutes ago.
Yeah. Sounds like that would be the right place.
Henry, do you mind enlighten us on what you as our community development director think about what's going on?
Sure. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. So just to provide some clarification for private trees, so if it's located within an HOA-owned lot, which in Villa Verde there's some HOA-maintained lots, lettered lots, that are maintained by the HOA. Along Calle Cristina, some of those custom lots have an open space easement, but that's still maintained by the private property owner. It's not the city's responsibility to maintain any of those trees.
Henry, could I just ask you one question?
Mm-hmm.
If I had a tree on my property, okay, and I didn't want that tree there no more, okay, so I decided to go out and just cut that tree down, okay, what repercussion am I going to get from the city?
So first, it's highly recommended that you contact the city, the planning department, just to verify as long as it's on your private property, that there are certain regulations and guidelines prior to a tree being allowed to be.
But it's not my tree. It's my tree. It's on my property. So why would the city have any involvement in telling me that I can't take my tree down in my backyard? I got a pine tree that's 350 feet tall, and I'm worried about it falling on my house. Okay? Basically, what right do we, the city, have to tell me that I can't cut down my tree?
So previously, the council and the city had adopted tree preservation ordinance, which is the guidance for this particular topic. It was discussed if there are dead, dying, or diseased trees, provide us with that information from an arborist report and request a tree removal permit from planning staff if it's 3 or less. If it's above that, then it goes to DPRB. And staff will make that determination based off of the information that is provided to us. And we'd have certain guidelines. So if it's, for instance, if it's less than 10 inches then in diameter, the tree trunk, then I believe it's exempt. So they could remove those trees on their own. If it's causing damage to structures or property, then that's another reason to allow for tree removal. But just to provide a reason of I just want to take it out, there are certain guidelines that we have to look at and analyze and to see if it is justified by the criteria that the city council, previous city council, and the city adopted.
Okay, so years ago, when we hired an arborist, one of the selling points to the community was that arborist was going to be available to the community for advice to come out and look at, and that was years ago. And believe me, I was reminded about that just earlier today. Okay, so we all know, and we pray that there aren't people like that out there, but we all know there are. I decide I don't want my tree, so I go out and I get an arborist. And that arborist says, hey, that tree is no good. Mm-hmm. So then he brings that report in here, and then our arborist drives by and says, there's nothing wrong with that tree. So now we get a dueling arborist reports. Okay? How do we adjudicate that? Go hire a third arborist?
So our city arborist at this point does not look at private trees. We've had situations in the past of like apartment property owners having a number of trees, and the city arborist, to my understanding, is just looking at community trees and the health maintenance of those trees. For private property trees, we are requiring arborist reports from the property owner to provide the information of its dead, diseased, or dying, and then staff will go out just to kind of to try and ascertain if that's accurate, and that's how we've handled this process for private.
Thanks, Henry. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off into a different tangent. It's gonna. I would like to hear more about the trees, but I'm also not telling or I don't even want to be projecting that I'm telling the homeowners association how to do their job. Their job is dictated by their membership, and they voted whatever they are. So if that means they got dead trees and they got problems with fire problems, then I believe they're the responsible party that's going to take their community safety at hand.
Correct. And they are allowed per code to maintain these HOA open space trees. So the HOA can prune them and properly prune them and maintain them. That's totally allowed. So in the instance where they want to remove one, or however many they want to remove, they need to contact the planning department just to provide a site plan of where they're located, an arborist report, just to let them know the status of those trees and why they need to be removed, and then we'll take a look at that.
Henry, what about the situation where I've seen photos where there's residents who, in that area, where they have dead branches just like this, and they're all stacked up on their property. They've just broken off the tree. Do they need to contact the city to clear that?
No.
So, and it's grotesque. I mean, there's a lot of it. So any of these things where there's limbs and branches that are just decrepit and laying on the ground, there's absolutely no issue. Is it I guess practical, or even common practice, I guess? I know a lot of the HOAs in the community, and it's been funny because there's been different HOAs that have organized around different things. And I'm just trying to think on how many of them, other than maybe the one over by Benelli Park, had removed several trees, I think in the last 24 months, something like that. But other than that, I mean, I really can't think of an HOA that's done any substantial tree removal that's come this way. Has there been? I mean, other than that, I think that's the only one I can recall in the last 24 months.
There's certain condos or like apartment complexes that are fairly large that have been requesting certain removals because there's different reasons. So if they're too close to a building, it's causing damage to a building, or there's too many trees in one location, so it's causing them to be requesting to remove one or some of them. So there's items like that have been brought to, in this case it would be DPRB, because that was like 100 or so trees.
Were any of them black walnuts?
Not that I recollect.
All right. So just one last thing from me is that I guess my question is, what do we hope to get back from Parks and Rec that we wouldn't get from a study session and being able to directly answer the questions? Because anytime we send something to a commission, it typically comes back with feedback and what have you. I'm open to the joint meeting. I just don't think sending it to Parks and Rec when it sounds like council members have questions, and frankly, I will attend this meeting, and so I'm sure it sounds like there's going to be at least 3 of us there. So it sounds like it's probably going to have to be a joint meeting.
Well, as you know, any number, the ruling most recently is that any number of mayors and council members can attend, like at the Public Safety Commission last week, 3 of us were there. But the Parks and Rec Commission, so we're sending it to them for information and discussion. The discussion that comes out of it, I'm not expecting and asking for a recommendation. But the good thing about sending it there is that they may have questions, and staff may ask, they may see a report, have additional questions, and that just enriches the information that we are going to get at that study session that you're talking about. So having it more at that level instead of in this kind of a session or even a study session is just, I think, a way of getting a well-rounded report. If anything has been shown by this hour-long discussion is that there's a lot we don't know, and this is just a way of getting to know more about it.
I'm just curious then, it sounds like I'm just, and maybe the city attorney can clarify for me, but if 3 or more council members want to attend and participate in a meeting, that's actually a meeting that must be agendized, right? I mean, that would be a Brown Act issue.
If it's a meeting of another one of our commissions, you can attend, 3 can attend, you can participate in the formal public comment process, but you can't discuss amongst yourselves out in the audience.
Right, yeah.
And not only that, the practice generally is, from my experience, that the liaisons or council members who attend the commission meetings really don't participate, except maybe there's a clarifying question or something like that, or they're asking what's happening at the council level, really don't participate in the agenda items that the commission itself is discussing.
All right, well, here, you guys decide what you want. Here's what I want for me, okay? I was originally in tune with sending it out to Parks and Rec. I'm going to rescind that. I think I want to see a report, and then from Parks, our Parks and Rec people, I have a feeling it's going to be a very comprehensive report, okay? And I want to make it a combined invite the Parks and Rec Commission to join us, just like we do the Planning Commission. And I have no definitive date on it, but I also want to make sure that everyone in this room and everyone in radio land and TV land understands I am not up here to circumvent the HOA or even referee the HOA and their membership. They have a process, and that's it. And I think that each and every member of their board that stepped up here said the same thing. We're not looking to tear down trees, move them out. We're looking to clean them up and make sure that the healthy ones survive and the dead ones, if somebody's going to recognize if they're dead or not. And I would hope that I have enough trust in the people that are looking at that they're going to do the right thing. Okay, and so that's where I'm at. You guys decide where you want.
I support you, Mayor. Call me nuts as it relates to black walnut trees, but I'll support you on that.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I would just like to state the questions that I was hoping to ask the arborist tonight, along with the information I need to make an informed decision. Since it sounds like we don't want to have this discussion, I'll just put it in the record so people can understand how I'm approaching and thinking about this. And whether it goes to the Parks and Recs Commission, whether it goes to the Planning Commission or whatever commission has jurisdiction or multiple commissions, I'm okay with that as well. I would just really want to get the information I need to make the best decision I can, given that I have a certain thought process I follow whenever I vote on items. So these are the questions that I have. First, what is the status of black walnut trees? Why is there a dispute or discrepancy between their status, whether they're endangered or not? I kind of want to know why it isn't clear-cut. To me, it should be clear-cut, and would like to know why that is. What are the maintenance requirements of black walnut trees, and why haven't they been maintained if there are some requirements there? Do cities usually maintain them, or do they defer to HOAs when they're private? What kind of danger do they pose to residents in terms of fire hazards? Have any animals or dogs in the city been hurt by these black walnut trees? Where are these trees located? Are they in places that are in close proximity to homes, on city land, all on private land? Are they blocking pathways or trails? Are they dead, dying, diseased, healthy? Is there a danger that the maintenance of these trees would cause harm to the tree or to the environment? Would removal or maintenance of these trees harm local flora and fauna? So just a handful of questions that'll help me understand the implications of the vote we would take tonight, and whether it truly is something that the City Council needs to take a greater interest in, because, say, for example, if we allow for maintenance of them and it harms the trees and it has an impact on all kinds of wildlife, obviously then that it would have an impact on the city. If not, right, therefore, then it makes sense to leave it in the hands of the HOA. So those are my comments, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make clear for the record that I'm fine getting that information, whether it comes out of a Parks and Recs report, whether a department report, or whether some other report. But I do believe that it would benefit the entire council to have these questions answered rather than, as it seems to be spiraling down now, more concern about whether we're getting into an HOA dispute rather than actually trying to base a decision based on evidence, fact, and data.
Understand, and I think under a housekeeping thing, I'm watching Deborah type away feverishly. If you could supply her with your list, you've put it on the public record, that might help her.
Yeah, and I would encourage all members of the City Council. I know that they have many questions, and if we want the committees of jurisdiction to have a thoughtful discussion, maybe we all submit those questions to them ahead of time so that they could discuss them and provide as unbiased of an answer as they can. That would be my request, although of course that is up to everybody individually.
Super.
So I'm happy to do that.
Have any further discussion?
Yeah, I appreciate the discussion, and I also appreciate Ryan and the mayor bringing this back to my original request. So thank you. The original request, so that's what our motion will be, is just for the Parks and Rec Department, in conjunction with any other department that is necessary, to bring back information about black walnut trees at a date of their choosing, no timetable at this point, and bring it to the City Council. if somebody wants to amend that to include the Parks and Rec Commission, you want to have the Parks and Rec Commission joint session or not? I'm good either way.
Yeah, I would be, I mean, I'm thinking about Eric's comment that, I mean, it's crazy it might be. I mean, I almost wonder if you should have a planning, DPRB, and us. I mean, if you really want to cover everybody that has jurisdiction over this particular topic, it seems like
I
it
think
should be.
it all boils down to me, it boils down to, are we talking about these trees in question specifically, or are we talking broader
Just black walnut
city maintained trees? If we're talking city maintained trees, then we need to cue in Parks and Rec. If we're talking private trees, then DPRB or planning or whoever that may be needs to be in on that conversation.
So the only thing I
too.
would say about that is what's not clear to me, do these trees warrant special consideration that other private trees would not warrant, right? Because in that case, then.
Yeah, I mean, that's something.
I just don't know.
And that's exactly what we're looking for.
To me, I think
more information on that very question.
If that's a question that we need to address when it comes to private trees, I just would think that we would want to do that in a consistent and manner with the processes that are already set out for private trees.
I almost feel like I know you want to send it to Parks and Rec, but I almost feel like a study session with this, getting this information teased out, the fundamental questions to council would make sense, and then refer it to the appropriate body seems more logical to me than if we send it to Parks and Rec. I don't know what they're going to glean that we aren't trying to get ourselves here.
That's fine. So the original, then my motion then would be that we ask, what I just said, we ask Parks and Recreation staff and whatever other departments need to weigh in to provide the information on all these questions that have come up from the audience and from the City Council to the City Council at a date of their choosing and at their convenience.
I support that second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No? No. It's 4-1.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't have an opportunity. I wanted to actually speak on this topic. It will be a very long time before you'll see this come before the council. Because what I'm hearing right now is just a report on information to council in a study session format with the Parks and Rec Commission with no contemplation, anything.
No Parks and Rec Commission.
I'm sorry, yeah. To the council answering a lot of questions about trees, but with no contemplation of what the action is going to be. So based on a priority list, I would not make that really high unless you tell me to push out other type of priorities. I asked earlier, what are we trying to accomplish? Because right now, if it's as simple as having just a report, we could easily provide a report to the council on all the different areas of walnut trees. If it's not related to the HOA, then we're completely bifurcating the issue unless the council is trying to tie the issues together. My understanding is this should have nothing to do with the HOA, so I need clarity if that's the case, because if it is the case, then there is no absolute priority to have this come back in a year or two if it takes that long for us to get through other parks and community development priorities. So unless there's an action.
No HOA, it's not.
Well,
no.
do the questions, because I asked questions in the record that involved HOA, if you remember, do HOAs. So would that impact the status of that at all?
No. So my understanding, we're talking about black walnuts. I'll give you my analysis. We're talking about black walnuts because an issue has come up with the HOA over the Christmas holiday. Black walnuts haven't come up in the 2 years that I've been here. There's no other issue that's come to my attention that has a priority. And so there's a nexus there. But in the discussion of the information coming forth, the direction, it's a complete bifurcation that this has nothing to do with the HOA trees and what's going on. So code enforcement will continue with what they're doing in the current complaints. We are not going to tie this together, so I have no concern, timing-wise, to have this item prioritized in front of any other park and recreation or community development type of priority. And so it's really just, we want more information so we can just have more information and talk. But I have no idea about after we have the conversation, what are you trying to accomplish? Is there something we want to accomplish? Are we just having the exercise of talking about the trees? Or do we want to change a policy, take an action, because that will define how I prioritize and what kind of information.
So I would argue that it should be prioritized because the questions that I'm getting at are, is there a compelling reason for us to get involved because of HOA action, right? So in other words, if you allow the HOA to maintain the trees as is and it causes all this massive damage and everything else, right, then that would be a problem. If there's not, then it doesn't really matter. And that's not what's really clear to me is this was prompted, I suppose, by a dispute within the HOA, but I don't know if there's a specific timing reason behind it that we need to act that relates to that complaint, whether there's irreparable harm or not that would be done, or whether or not it doesn't matter if we come back in 2 years, 5 years, or anything else. And that's why I can't give you necessarily a priority. It would be my preference that we resolve this as quickly as possible. I don't think anybody wants this to drag out.
Well, I would argue the opposite. There's no priority to me, to be frank. And the reason being that black walnut trees have been here for a long time. This has never been a problem in the past. The HOA is fully competent and capable of handling it. And the reason why you can't find anything definitive on whether these trees are extinct or not extinct or endangered, threatened, whatever, Google it. The bottom line is it's inconclusive and it's not been listed anywhere from any regulatory agency like it has like a California oak tree. So the bottom line is there is nothing there. The poker hand or, where this is going to go is probably an attempt by a council member to get an ordinance to protect these trees. That's the end game. So at this point, if that's what the end game is,
That's not my end game.
Well, I know, but I'm saying if we're going to go through the exercise of the discussion, there's no point in having it based off of the facts at this point, as I understand them. So, yeah.
I understand everybody makes decisions differently.
Right, exactly.
Right, people get information in different ways, they process it. So this is the information that I would request, and I have no end game in mind. I really have no inclination to vote one way or the other until I have this information from a source that I trust. To your point, you could Google it, but it's actually not clear, which is why it's so hard to come to a decision. And that's why I would look for guidance on this, and not, I don't believe you're trying to mischaracterize this in a way that's saying that I have an end goal in mind or an agenda, but I do want to know more and in a timely way so we can get answers to people who've brought this forward, and then we can resolve this and move on with business.
I think Councilmember Ebner, in the setup for the recommendation, spoke to it. He is bifurcating this from having anything to do with the HOA. He is setting the timeline set at the discretion of staff.
Okay.
Although I will modify that 2 or 5 years is a little far out.
I agree with that.
So,
a little exaggerated.
hopefully
2 to 5
in the
years,
next
but I think the issue is we don't have, I think good information. Trees are important. Walnut tree descriptions and details related to walnut trees is great, but we usually do work to engage in an action. And so if it's not related to the HOA, which seemingly there's that nexus, that's what's being stated, then it really is just an informational activity that staff's being asked to do. And so if I have to weigh that with equestrian center issues, some of the code enforcement, larger discussions we're having, and make decisions on what we prioritize, if there's not that nexus to something that has a timing basis to, like we need an answer to it in 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, then that's what's guiding the change in what we're going to prioritize.
Sure.
Unless you tell me otherwise.
That's fine. Just include that in the, it's like I said, timeline to be determined by staff.
Yeah.
Okay, as I understand, we have lots of different people asking lots of different questions, okay? We have staff who have different opinions, okay? I asked one staff member and it's unclear. I have another staff member who tells me it is definitely a prohibited tree, okay? So then so now I don't know. I have other community members calling me and saying, hey, I got to get off the phone right now because the state's calling me with another opinion. So I got all of these different opinions, and quite honestly, back to my original statement, I know a Christmas tree, and I know I got a bunch of other trees. So the reality is, until we have some type of information, you know, I agree with John. We just got to get some kind of report in a manner that's going to allow us to move forward. But I'm not going to become involved in between the homeowners association and the homeowners membership. But I have one question. Tomorrow the phone rings or somebody calls and the city or the state says, hey, by the way, overnight we now have deemed the black walnut tree a sacred cow. Okay? What is that going to do with us? Can we do something with it, or do we have to recognize that the state now has said it's a sacred cow?
Well,
Go ahead.
Until we're directed to have to take some action from an outside body, it would be set on what our codes are specifically specifying. And right now our codes go to the size of a tree and don't delineate an oak tree separately in terms of other requirements.
So the state would have to say by proclamation, this is a sacred tree. They would have to order us. They would have to tell us.
And the enforcing agency is the city.
Right.
That's the second part of that.
Correct.
Okay.
So I'll boil it. All the questions that I've asked tonight really get at one central question. Is there a compelling reason for City Council to treat private black walnut trees differently in the city? All my questions really get at that, right? And all these other things that I've asked. So that's really what I'm looking for in the report or from someone who can provide that unbiased answer. With respect to the time, the urgency is just driven by, is there a compelling reason for us to act sooner? And if you don't believe there is, Councilman Ebner, then we can deprioritize this. But all my questions that I've submitted into the record really get at that one central question. Does this tree warrant special treatment, different treatment than other private trees? And if it does, then we move forward with that. If not, then it's settled.
Yeah, and I think the questions, for me, were clear, the ones you were asking about informing the potential policy decision on the back end. But what we weren't receiving and what the Parks Director came up and advised me,
sure,
we don't know exactly what we're doing. So I can do a report in 30 days, right? It won't have the level of detail. It could hit all the different questions they're asking for, or I can do a report in 4, 5, 6 months and have more details related to all the different questions that are being asked. Each of them would serve a different purpose to you and to what you use that data for. And so all I got in the conversation, we went into a lot of different areas, but the reality of what the recommendation was coming from Councilmember Ebner was strictly, I want a report and it has this level of detail with questions that are being asked by multiple council members and the public, and I want it to go to entity X. And that's it. And we could do that, and it would be a report going, let's say, if it was the Parks Commission would have gone to Parks, here it's coming to council, here's the report. And that's it.
Yep,
You
that's
got a
all.
report.
Report at a city council meeting.
So, the report at city council meeting, so here's a presentation of the report. It would be an information report, not even an action report.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly, and just answer get the questions answered that we have all asked and that there's confusion on or lack of knowledge, ignorance, or...
I think the challenge here is it's not often that the action we take is not an actual driving an action. It's just, we want to have a discussion about walnut trees and we want information, and that's it, just an informational report. That's the difference that I'm seeing. I just wanted to make sure we're clear on what the...
I think we ask that all the time. In fact, at the earlier meeting with Edison, we just asked them to come to a city council meeting, give us information. We will talk to them, we will grill them, we ask them for more information that they didn't give us already. So we're asking for information to be presented to the public and to the city council at that, because we don't have that information. So this happens very frequently. With Edison, there's besides asking them to do something else, do a better job, or we like what you're doing, it's the same kind of thing. Information, and it may lead to something, and it may not. At this point, just the information. That's all we need.
So can we just repeat back the action we're going to take? So what I have is there's a motion by Councilmember Ebner, a second by Councilmember Vienna, for the Parks Department or any other department related to this aspect of walnut trees to provide information on the questions that were given at a date to be determined by staff and bring that back to the council as an informational report on that timeline.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And
It's not
that
going back to Parks and Rec.
no, it's coming here.
it's
And that,
Park
so what I would
Commission.
ask is, we're going to go back and make sure we captured the questions, but there's a lot of different pieces. So it would be helpful if members of the community or the council if you have a Word document that has those, or send an email, please provide it to the city clerk and myself, so we can at least compile all the different questions and areas, and then we can strategize internally based on workload how we time this out for a council discussion. That would be helpful.
Can I just clarify too that there was a lot of motions getting thrown around, and at the time, when we voted, my impression was that this was going again back to the Parks and Rec Commission. So the vote is what the vote is, and it passed, and we're gonna.
We can fix that.
We
I'll call back this item if John would like to reintroduce his motion, and then we can get that fixed.
Is that how we do it, Jeff?
That's a fine way to do it.
I appreciate it, and so I'll just remove the motion that Chris just expressed.
Yes.
I guess period.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Perfect.
Motion carries 5-0, whatever it says.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to go to oral communications, or haven't we just had that? Members of the audience, speakers are limited to 3 minutes, or as may be determined by the chair. Yeah, you can speak on anything you want for the next 3 minutes.
Okay, good evening. What I had a question about was, I usually get my information from the app, which is fantastic. I wait for the agenda, follow my way, or social media as well sometimes. I look at people's pages that are out there. Some people don't follow social media. One is Councilman John Ebner's. And looking at the tree management was prior meeting, the 10th, I think it was. It disclosed information on the city council will discuss everything about the trees, what we went through last 2 weeks ago, Parks and Rec, Parkway, and fines, and those type of issues. The part that I got confused was on something that was on this agenda now. Prior, a little hint was it does not cover discussion about a recent removal and severe pruning of several black walnut trees in an HOA easement. This was on an agenda for the 10th, which we didn't get agendized till this 2 weeks later. So I don't understand what that hint was. And where did you get the information about a discussion about recent removal and pruning of several black walnut trees? When members of our HOA don't know anything about that, we haven't had that monthly meeting yet. Members have to have an agenda as you do before we can speak about that. And this came out, we haven't had our monthly meeting yet. So many members in our HOA don't know anything that we're all talking about. So somebody let out a hint about something, or I'm not, on Councilman John Ebner's Facebook page.
I'll address that during my comments.
Okay, yeah, I'm confused on how, I heard about something from you prior before it was on the city website or the actual agenda for today. And this is why a lot of us are here. There's many questions now because of a hint that we don't know about until today. So I'm just confused on the city information and how things get out, and the way that it's presented, that I would think a page like that would be just city information, not opinions or comments that you've heard somewhere, but HOAs have not, or the members of the HOAs have not even heard about yet. That's private information that our members should know first before that it's out on social media to others.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. John said he'll address that. Anyone else?
Hi, Ruth Luban. I'm here to speak about City Ordinance 10.24.104, which has to do with the parking that's being limited on Cypress Avenue and Lone Hill. I so happen to live on Cypress Avenue, and we do not have a garage to park in. We can only park on the city street. Since we now have district permits on the side of the street of Cypress Avenue, this deeply limits our parking whenever there's a football game that's located down at the street at the field, and that doesn't necessarily mean San Dimas High School. Any public game or sport, soccer game on the weekend, which is located at Lone Hill Field, any type of public sporting event. I mention this to you because not only is it inconvenient to me to have to bring home my groceries, park my car in front of the house, and then park my car, leave my car in front of the house, unload groceries, and then move my car on the side of the street, but now I have to get up out of bed at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night to move my car in front of my house, because if I don't, I'm going to receive a parking ticket for parking on the side of the street. I'm aware that I can get a district permit for 2 of the vehicles that I have, but I have to specify which 2 vehicles I'm getting a district permit for. Now, because I'm one of the few homeowners that actually owns a home on Cypress Street, my street did not receive those parking permits, since many of the other homes in which residents live, they are not owned by residents, they are being rented. I understand that maybe this may not be the city's concern, but unfortunately for someone like me, I am suffering the consequences of these actions, which were put into place specifically to prevent students from parking there during the daytime, not to prevent residents from being able to park their own vehicle on the side of the street when they cannot park in front of their homes because they have no other place in which to park their vehicles because other people park in their spots. So birthday parties, any event, we cannot park. Thank you so much.
Julie Salazar. I have a couple of questions. One, I know that a former city council person, Jeff Templeman, had an issue with trees on his private property. And we may want to go back and revisit what those issues were, because that kind of sets precedents in the city when there was an issue with trees on private property, and yet it was dictated in some way what he could and couldn't do with those trees. Now, I'm not sure if they were a protected oak, or I'm not sure what their designation was, but it was quite the matter, so it's going to be in minutes somewhere. The other thing is, we are a tree city. Is that correct? Are we designated as a tree city? Because I know some cities are designated, and I believe we are designated as a tree city. Is that correct? Yes.
I believe it hasn't changed.
Right. So under the designation of a tree city, we have certain designations and responsibilities regarding trees in our city. And one of the things that I would think would be a designation is a tree that could be considered whatever it's being considered. Possibly endangered, yes, endangered, presumably endangered, or whatever the designation is. Now, the arborist couldn't answer that question. Ryan said he had several different answers. So the reason that the questions that Eric asked were pretty specific to the black walnut tree, which is something that he said also, if it related to the flora and fauna in the area, it is somehow connected to the entire city. So if they want, as a member of the HOA, they want those trees pruned, and they want the homeowners to accept the responsibility to prune those trees, that's an HOA matter. But if they're going to touch those trees, and there's a city designation or ordinance or a state designation or a county designation regarding that specific tree, I would think, and I don't know if it was the arborist or if it was the Parks and Human Services representative or whoever it was, he said, then that's something that they would have to look at. They would have to go out, look at the tree, look at the designation, look at the condition of the tree, and make a determination. Now, all of that discussion sounded reasonable until we started getting into conspiracy theories and somehow saying that someone had a partisan idea of what they wanted to do. And it looked as if Eric and John were confused in the fact that maybe that was designated towards them. I would hope that the discussion as it was going, which is a fact-finding mission, but also does include the city, even though it's on private property and it's an HOA, because of the designation of the black walnut, should be a concern for everybody, including people in the city, people part of the city, or the city council. So I'm pleased that you're going to do a fact-finding mission, but I want the discussions, this has been a long drawn-out discussion, I want the discussions to stay civil, because I think we all expect that from our representatives, and I think that there shouldn't be accusations made by our representatives towards other representatives. I think we should have some kind of civility and keep things cordial and keep things professional. So I would hope we would be able to continue to do that, because we've had incidents in the past and I don't want to see them continue. People in the city don't want to see that. So I'm hoping the fact-finding mission that you're going on, because I do think it's important to find out for everybody in the city what the designation is for these trees, what the proper maintenance is for these trees, what the responsibility is for the private owners. Being on a board of directors for an HOA, I know that you have all these issues with residents versus the board versus everything else in the world. But we need to find out what the designation for this tree is. And as a tree city, we have the responsibility to have more concern and more education and more information about the trees in our city, because not every city is a tree city. We're designated as such because it's an important thing for this city.
Thank you, Julie.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anyone else wishing to speak to the council? Okay, then we'll move on to city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier this week, during a celebration of the Chinese Lunar New Year, 11 residents were killed and many others injured in a mass shooting in Monterey Park. Our hearts go out to all those that have been impacted by the tragic event. Unfortunately, yesterday, the city of Half Moon Bay also experienced a mass shooting, resulting in 7 losing their lives at 2 different locations in their city. We as a city extended our condolences to Monterey Park and Half Moon Bay and offered our assistance should there be anything we can help them with in this tragedy. I reached out to the 2 city managers in those cities. And so it's a very challenging and difficult week for many people in the region here and up there. Several meetings in the past, the council had requested a discussion of the Public Safety Commission with regards to the overnight parking moratorium, Chapter 10.24. This was November 22nd when the council had requested this item be discussed and for the potential of recommended changes to be presented back to the council. On January 17th, the commission met and discussed the matter. In the end, the commission did not recommend any changes. They took an action of a vote of 7-0 to not make any changes to that specific code section. During the presentation, our senior code enforcement officer, Mr. Jeff Hartung, indicated that there was a desire to make some changes in the recreational vehicle section of that code, and that's something that we don't currently have on a timeline for it to come back to council, but it's something that would come forth in the future. And at that time, if the council has any desire to make changes in any other area of that chapter, that would be the time when we're initiating that MCTA to be able to discuss and make those recommended changes. In terms of the Gold Line, the city has entered into a settlement agreement with the Gold Line regarding multiple disputes the city had against them, having received agreement on a number of mitigations to help the city with impacts coming from the Gold Line's forcible taking of the parking rights. So we're glad to reach a conclusion on that. And with that, I return it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Can I ask a quick question, just for the public's benefit? On the Gold Line settlement, 2 questions. Is there a place where because I believe it's a public document, as you mentioned, is there a place where the public can see that document? And secondly, will that come, I already asked the city attorney about this, but I'd like the public to know, will that settlement or anything related to it come to the city council for discussion and some discussion and a possible decision of some kind?
No, the settlement negotiations are confidential and in closed sessions, and the council at that time had provided authorization for the action. So the city manager was able to execute that with the city attorney, and there's no further action that would come to council. In the question of the settlement agreement, we weren't specially going to post that settlement agreement in any different way, although we can if that's the council's desire. It would be treated like any other document that we have that's subject to public records request.
So somebody could request it. I can't remember. What's the fee and timeline for that?
If it's an electronic record, so there is no cost associated with the settlement document if that's electronic, and would be provided within the 10 days required under law.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, John?
No, that's all. Thank you.
City Attorney?
Mayor, I have no reports tonight.
Council members' reports on meetings attended at the expense of the local agency? Seeing none. Eric McConnell?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank the public and the council for engaging in a spirited debate. I have always of the belief that dissent and discussion and disagreement are a positive thing for democracy. And so while sometimes you may see things get heated, I never take offense to that or any umbrage because I know that the process is playing out. And by participating in that process, this marvelous thing that we call democracy, I hope that we all appreciate what we have and that when we have disagreements, it means democracy is alive and well. With that, I also want to pay my condolences and respects to the victims of the recent Monterey Park tragedy, as well as I believe there was another mass shooting in Northern California as well. The city, certainly, our residents here, our hearts go out to those people who, what a terrible way to welcome in their new year, and our prayers are with them. And with that, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Mr. Weber?
I too will just mention that my condolences go out to Monterey Park and Half Moon Bay, just like Chris was saying. That absolutely 2 completely tragic events that are the ability of those things to happen back to back is just mind-boggling. So the loss of life is completely needless, and I'm sure both of those communities are grieving, and the healing process will take a long time for both of those communities. I know we all know how small Monterey Park is, and I'm assuming from my times in Half Moon Bay that they're probably even smaller. So those are huge, huge events in those cities' histories. One thing that I did want to highlight as well, and I posted this on my council Facebook page, but an individual's name that I wanted to mention specifically, and that's Brandon Say. And he was the individual that disarmed the gunman in the Monterey Park shooting inside of another dance hall in the city of Alhambra. And for those that haven't seen, there's video out there of him disarming that gunman. It's amazing. Just the fact that there's video of it and video that's that good because of technology nowadays, it's so compelling to watch that video because, again, it's such high quality. You feel like you're in the room with him, and you feel the urgency. And he is truly a hero for everybody that was inside of that establishment. And so I just wanted to, in addition to offering our condolences to those communities, recognize him for his heroic actions.
Super. Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor. As my other colleagues have said, my thoughts and prayers are with everyone impacted by the tragedies in Monterey Park, as well as Half Moon Bay, and what could have happened in Alhambra. I think the communities are mourning, and there's a lot of people impacted by that all over. So with that, for those that celebrate the Lunar New Year that we just had, I hope it improves, and I wish everybody prosperity and joy. And my thoughts have been with the AAPI community in the last several days and will continue to be. Also, in addition to those things, there's been a lot of things going on. I had the opportunity over the last couple weeks to send personnel or send people, coworkers, to 2 funerals for the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. They both have tragically lost deputies in the last 60 days, within the last 60 days. And Saturday night I had the opportunity with Councilmember Weber to attend an event honoring both Riverside County Sheriff's deputies. And my thoughts and prayers are with their families. The LA County Sheriff's Department also lost a deputy to suicide in the last couple weeks, which is another tragic loss. I think that it's important that people seek resources if they're struggling with mental health issues, depression, things of that nature. Last year, in June or July, a nationwide initiative, 988, was launched, and people can call that as a crisis line. I believe Dee Dee Hirsch operates it, and anytime you need help, you can reach out there to get to a crisis counselor and to be connected with an alternative crisis response model that potentially would send non-law enforcement response if someone was in crisis, or if appropriate, a law enforcement acute crisis response team or otherwise. So mental health is an issue. I hope everybody's taking care of themselves, but it is a very serious topic. And I do hope that everybody's being mindful of those things. And if you see something, as the saying goes, say something. I think there's a lot of things in our community that we're very blessed to have a very engaged community, whether they're on Nextdoor or on the San Dimas Buzz or Help Save Villa Verde or the Neighborhood Watch Group for all the 4 cities in our area. Nevertheless, people are engaged, and I have to agree with Councilmember Nakano that public discourse is fun, but I think the most fun thing is watching the community come together when they need to, as they've done in the past, to help people around here and abroad. I wanted to acknowledge the Villa Verde Ridge HOA and commend them for their investment in public safety related to the investment of 6 flock cameras. Those flock cameras, as some citizens know, the City Council with the Sheriff's Department supported the implementation of a flock safety system that assists the city not only in combating crime, but really solving crime. And by doing so, this HOA and other HOAs, but this one specifically, really is investing not just in their community, but they're investing in public safety, I think, for the city broadly. I appreciate the leadership of that HOA, and I appreciate their dedication to keeping residents safe, because as we know, crooks don't just go to Villa Verde Ridge. They go all over the place. They take all of our mail, and they do all the things that so many of us get very frustrated about. But by the addition of these resources and others, working collaboratively with our sheriff's station, it will help, it will benefit the citizens here. So thank you so much to the Villa Verde Ridge Homeowners Association. And lastly, but not least, I again had the great honor of attending the San Gabriel Valley Vector and Mosquito Control District meeting. And I want everybody to know that it is very important that you toss any of the standing water from any of these storms that are accumulating in your pots, in your planters, in any of it. It needs to go. The mosquitoes breed in this, and the bottom line is the wind and the rain are helpful to wash away a lot of what was. But if you don't tip the rest of it, there will be what is. And so please, please, please be diligent in doing that. And lastly, the Mosquito and Vector Control District will gladly send someone to your home to walk through your backyard. If you feel that you just are abnormally getting bitten more than your neighbor, they are happy to come out and see if you have any sort of plants or fountains or landscape or whatever that is causing you potentially to have a special problem. So please feel free to reach out to the Mosquito and Vector Control District of San Gabriel Valley. They're outstanding people. And lastly, Levy Bush, who was the PIO person, has taken employment with another agency, and so he's going to be missed from the district. And unfortunately, within the last 10 days, Jamie Bisner, who was a longtime trustee, passed. And so I wish his family condolences. And speaking of passing, I do have one request. I would request at the next city council meeting that the city council adjourn in memory of Steve Rudy, who passed away. He is the owner of Starberry Farms. He's been very active in the community, and I would hope that we could formally do that at the next city council meeting if anyone else would support that. Thank you.
Reason why we can't do it in this council meeting?
That'd be fantastic.
John?
You know, about the shootings and the killings,
I just wondered if, given the timeliness, is there a reason why we can't do it during this one?
I believe there's a formal recognition that we send out, and there's some information needed to be gotten.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
so it's just sad to hear about the mass shootings. It was tragic in the pain and trauma that people have gone through in the communities, and especially Monterey Park. I used to work literally where that second dance studio is on Garfield, a short distance away. I have known a lot of people in both Alhambra and Monterey Park in years past. So, like everybody else, I don't know what the answer is, and when these things happen, it's just so hard to comprehend, but I can only imagine what the people are going through, and so I'm thinking about them. Let's see here. Ruth Louvan's talked about the parking district that includes Cypress, and that's the one that's to prevent school district people going to the high school from parking on the streets in that neighborhood. I believe that's the one we're talking about. And so I don't want to ask, I guess I just have a question, and maybe I can even just get maybe a little email or something to the council about the boundaries of that district and the parking district and the reasons that Cypress, which seems to be pretty far from the high school as far as somebody parking there and picking up or dropping off or whatever, or going to school, seems to be a little far for the... Anyway, I mean, I don't know, but it'd be good to know the reasons for that, and if we all get that, we can decide whether we want to ask for a modification or something along those lines. Secondly, so my Facebook page. So that Facebook page, it says, I have two Facebook pages, and you can follow both of them. You won't get a lot of stuff, but every now and then you do. And so one's johnebener.com, or not John Ebener, that's my website, but there's one John Ebener Facebook and a Facebook page, and that's more of the typical, I'm friends with everybody in the family, and everybody else sending pictures of dogs and funny videos, and so I get that stuff. The council member John Ebener is a page related you know, how you have your main profile or whatever it is, and you get a page, is also a page under that heading. It's a personal page. It's a political page. So I can understand why people might think that it's a city information page, because that's typically what I give out. I, posted the thing about the Southern California Edison meeting tonight. I try to, by Sunday or Monday, get the agenda and the hot topics or the main topics that we're going to be talking about. And sometimes there will be a comment about something, and so it's. I think people probably understand, just like any other council member's page, you're giving your opinion on these things. It's not strictly informational. As far as the misunderstanding about the HOA pruning the trees, that was a comment on my part, and I was saying that was not going to be included in that item, because a lot of people who had called me wanted that to be discussed, all the pruning to be discussed with the fines that was actually on the agenda. So maybe it wasn't clear, but the intent was to say that all that pruning and whatever it was that people are complaining to me about, that is not going to be on the agenda for that night. So that was the only reason for that. But I do reserve the right for making a comment about what I think on things that are on the agenda. It's always after the agenda comes out, because I wouldn't have the agenda to know what's on it, before I do that. So that particular post, I believe, came out on Tuesday. The agenda was posted the previous Friday. That's probably enough said about that. But Kathy, we can talk about that if you'd like and give more clarification. The only other thing, not to give staff any more work to do, but I was wondering, affordable housing is one of those things that we've talked about before and I've mentioned. And I'm not sure if there are any cities, so I guess maybe I should ask this in an email to Lily, for our housing director, or maybe planning. But I was wondering if there are any cities that have a provision whereby a developer or somebody who wants to remove affordable housing is required to provide either replacement housing in their own project or money into a fund that would help provide for affordable housing. And so that's just a question I have. I'm not asking for a big report to come back to the city council on that, but maybe I'll send an email and then get that answer, and you can send it out to the whole council. Unless you want to answer, unless there's an answer right now. Okay, fantastic. I'll send an email to you so you know exactly what I'm asking. Don't have to take notes on that. And I think that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Just to talk about Monterey Park and Half Moon Bay. It's how tragic. A number that we should all think about is 34 events in the first 3 weeks of this year. I think we all understand that there's been a lot of stuff going on. 34 events in the last 3 weeks of this year. We're a mess right now. We've got to figure out what we can do as a country to start working on these issues. It is sad. Brandon Say. Never heard of Brandon Say. Most of us will forget his name very shortly. But I'll guarantee you the people up there in Monterey Park won't forget his name. He was a very much, Sheriff Luna said it very clearly. He is a hero along with another person, and we haven't even heard that person's name. But when I listened to that kid talk in the last couple of days, he's a very humble-minded kid. He did what he felt was necessary and did a very good job of it. He said, I actually thought about shooting him, but he found another way and got rid of the threat. But, we should all think about Brandon Say. I also want to commend the Sheriff's Department, Monterey Park Police Department, all the first responders. But I want to say something about the Sheriff's Department, as many of us will say, the San Dimas Sheriff's Department. I received a message very clearly first thing in the morning after this all started happening from the station, advising me that they had put things in play because, as you all know, we have the sushi development here, their main campus, and that they were handling that area, not knowing what the whole ramifications about what was going on. But the Sheriff's Department assigned a unit up there just to take care of and to give those people peace of mind that we here in San Dimas were concerned about them. And I wanted to thank the captain and his people for thinking that right away. So they were, I certainly appreciate it. We had a very spirited conversation here recently tonight over you probably forgot by now, black walnut trees. But the reality was I didn't know anything about black walnut trees until I received a call from a community member with some concerns about black walnuts. That community member, along with several other people, were reaching out to the state to try to find out what, the viability of walnut trees. So people are out there, they're trying to become educated. I can tell you, I believe everybody sitting up at this table will know more about black walnut trees than you ever imagined in the next few months. But I wanted to just say thank you for to the member of the community who reached out to me and started bringing me up to date on it. I don't know enough about them. I will find out more about them as we progress. But I'm hoping that some of the things that are unfortunately being tossed around can work themselves out. As of right now, at this time, we are going to go into closed session to discuss one matter which is a real and conference with real property negotiators. Hopefully, we can resolve some of the issues that need to be resolved tonight. And
Mayor, can I, speaking to Councilmember Ebner's request for the document, the Gold Line document, I just wanted to remind the council and the public that the city does have a software program to receive requests for records that helps to staff to keep track of the requests that come in and to be able to respond timely and appropriately. So if you are going to be asking for any records, but in particularly that one, I could feel the requests are going to be coming through, I would ask that the requests go through the software application that's on the city's webpage.
Do they email you directly with that request, Deborah?
It goes through the software system. You set up an account and you put your request in the system, and they come directly to my office, and then we respond with it. Your request has been acknowledged. You will receive a response within 10 days, and the document is also provided through that system.
And where does the public see that, able to find that request document or
It's
page?
under How Do I and Public Records
Great.
Request.
All right, thank you.
All right. Good night. Thank you for attending.